As I said yesterday, there has to have been a pretty massive quid pro quo for Trump to declare a Lebanon ceasefire before Netanyahu could agree to it. And sure enough, this morning we see that quid pro quo showing up. And I have to say, Pakistan has prevailed again. It seems that the Field Marshal Asim Munir is still in Tehran. So definitely a lot of details for round two are being discussed, and also the framework for that discussion is probably being discussed. So here is the quid pro quo. This is the foreign minister of Iran, Sayyid Abbas Araghchi. Here is what he has said about 40 minutes ago. In line with the ceasefire in Lebanon, the passage for all commercial vessels through Strait of Hormuz is declared completely open for the remaining period of ceasefire on the coordinated route as already announced by Ports and Maritime Organization of the Islamic Republic of Iran. I think the next announcement will be from Trump to end the blockade. That is my prediction, that there is a stepwise de-escalation that is happening, which is what Munir is probably negotiating. The wild card in all of this is, of course, Netanyahu and Israel and what they do in Lebanon and what they do inside of Iran. Just remember, there were 2 IED bombs that went off in Tehran just 2 days ago, which went by unnoticed. But there is that going on. So there's a lot of speculation that that was something that Israel had tried to spark some sort of unrest inside Iran. So what else is happening vis-a-vis such a quid pro quo? It seems that Bloomberg is reporting that a Pakistan flagged tanker was the first that entered the Persian Gulf over the weekend and has become the first carrier to exit through the Strait of Hormuz with crude oil cargo that has not been stopped by the blockade of either Iran or the US. Our friendly stenographers in Axios are reporting that the US and Iran are negotiating over a 3-page plan to end the war, with one element under discussion, that being US would release $20 billion in frozen Iranian funds in return for Iran giving up its stockpile of enriched uranium. So we don't know if Iran has agreed to that, but that was part of the JCPOA. So it really feels like they are going back to the JCPOA, and Trump is going to try to gaslight all of us into thinking this is some fantastic new agreement, better than Obama. No one's ever seen anything like it. It is, just something so different, so unique. So we are going back to the JCPOA. And Russia has said that they're willing to take Iran's enriched uranium. And there will be a portion of the uranium that will be allowed to be enriched. We are going back to the 2015 agreement that Obama negotiated along with the Europeans, China, and Russia with the Iranians. That is where this is going. So let us see what else is happening. I don't want to let go of one of the most important elements that we are all going to be seeing as headlines in the coming years, and that is war crimes. My guess is that war crimes is going to be a headliner for years to come. Pete the Crusader Hegseth, if he lasts in his job, which is becoming highly tenuous, I think, was back on stage yesterday, and it is a stage, back on stage yesterday with a fully uniformed General Kane. And Hegseth was once again outlining how the US could commit grave war crimes inside Iran. Those would be, he outlined, hitting their electrical grid, hitting their water plants, and once again using another form of civilizational erasure. And he mixed it up with stories against the press by saying that the press was behaving like the Pharisees who were spreading hate against Jesus Christ. Not sure if he was referring to Trump as Jesus or referring to himself as Jesus. But yes, there he was, again on stage, articulating an intent to commit war crimes, and again using the name of Jesus Christ and hinting that the press were Pharisees and Trump or himself were Jesus Christ. So we are back to looking at war crimes. My prediction, and I think the prediction of many people who are inside the human rights world, feel that this whole war and what Israel and the US have done in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Iran, will make international law great again. That the issues of genocide, war crimes, crime against humanity will make the headlines in the years to come. And the US and Israel will be in the dock for those war crimes. And anybody else who was complicit, for instance, the UK, that has allowed its bases to be used in the first hours of the attack on Iran. And any complicity UK spy planes have had in the Gaza situation and in Lebanon, in allowing the IDF to target civilian infrastructure and to kill civilians. I truly believe that all of this will help the ICC and the ICJ rise from the ashes. And we are all going to learn a lot about post-World War II, what the Rome Statute was, what Nuremberg was, and all of those structures that were put in place truly to say never again. What were the failures and how are those failures going to be redressed? So I really do think that in the coming years, war crimes, crimes against humanity, genocide, and how international law will address all of this will be what the headlines will be. I am confident of that. We are watching the war crimes charges and the future trial of the most decorated Australian soldier who committed war crimes against Afghan civilians during the Afghan wars. Immunity has been given to at least 3 soldiers under his command to give testimony as to what he ordered and how he ordered the murder of unarmed Afghan civilians. So that is underway. Right now, I think he's been given bail, but he could be serving life in prison given the testimony of those soldiers under his command. So, every one of these trials sets a precedent. So I'm sure all international human rights lawyers are watching this trial and how it pans out. Meanwhile, the Hind Rajab Foundation is going after Israeli soldiers who they can identify through the videos that these soldiers have been posting blatantly themselves. They are filing charges against these IDF soldiers in any country these soldiers seem to appear in, because many of them have dual European Israeli nationality. So when they show up in their European country, the Hind Rajab Foundation files charges against them. So there is that going on, and it is pretty relentless. So watch this space. The ceasefire in Lebanon has come into force, and that is why you're seeing Abbas Araghchi's statement about the Strait of Hormuz. And he is saying, as long as this ceasefire holds and meets the criteria of a ceasefire, the strait will be open from the Iranian side. As I said yesterday, these are ancestral lands of the Lebanese who live in the south. They will never abandon their ancestral lands, and no matter what, they will return to them. And sure enough, in the hundreds of thousands, people are returning to their lands. Even if it is for 10 days, even if there is fear that Israeli soldiers are still occupying parts of their land, they will never give it up. They are not imports from another country. They belong to that land. They have been there for generations. They have not just flown in as imports from all over the world to occupy land that belong to somebody else. These are their lands. It is their soil. They will return to these lands no matter what. And they are returning to these lands today. We don't know how Israel's refusal to withdraw from Lebanon is going to affect the ceasefire. The Lebanese leadership, Nabi Berri, is saying withdrawal must be part of the negotiation. And I think this will affect direct talks if withdrawal from southern Lebanon is not part of the frame. So let's see how that pans out. Meanwhile, Pew Research has done a survey that shows 60% of Americans have a very negative view of Israel. And that is showing up in the political discourse of this country, in the way the Democrats are voting, as we saw yesterday on Bernie Sanders' resolution, and the discourse in the generations. So the older generation above 55 is still holding on to favor Israel, and the Republicans are, but below 55, there's a sea change. And as older Democrats are literally being pushed aside and younger Democrats are coming up in leadership, as well as, running for elections in the House and in the Senate, as we've seen in the New Jersey election, that Analia has won handily, and she is extremely clear that what happened in Gaza is genocide, and she has won, in a resounding victory. That is a key indicator. There are many key indicators that the young Democrats are definitely of a different opinion on Israel. So it seems that even the evangelical base of Trump is souring on Israel. And that is what poll after poll and survey after survey is showing. So that is why I go back to the point of war crimes. There will be a much larger appetite in the world to resuscitate ICC and ICJ and look at all the war crimes that have been committed by Israel and by the United States, and put everyone on notice who is planning to commit war crimes. And that brings me to Sudan. Sudan has been in a terrible war, civil war, for 4 years now. We just crossed the 4-year anniversary, and it has been brutal. It is the largest humanitarian crisis in the world. It is a Sudanese army versus the RSF. And the RSF is fully supported by UAE, that is arming and funding and enabling what the RSF is doing, which is rape and murder and torture of unarmed civilians. Millions have been displaced. And the UAE is extracting gold and other minerals from Sudan with the help of the RSF. It is not enough focus on what is going on there. Declan Walsh of the New York Times has done a lot of reporting, and I encourage everyone to read this. Once the Iran situation calms down, the searchlight will go right back, hopefully, to what is happening in Sudan and the role that the UAE has been playing. But perhaps the economic damage that Iran has done to the UAE, to Dubai and to Abu Dhabi, maybe that will stop some of the horrors that the UAE has been funding inside the Sudan. So watch this space. War crimes is going to be hitting our headlines over and over and over again. And that is the right thing to be focusing on.